Welcome to the 2013 USA Ultimate US Open Championships presented by USA Ultimate. Game number 2 of the men's semifinals, and what a matchup it will be. Doublewide from Austin, Texas, and Revolver from San Francisco. The seeds 1 and 2 here in this matchup with a trip to the finals on the line here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Mike Cousins joined by former Wake Forest captain Evan Lepler, and this is going to be quite a game between these two teams. Doublewide, a defending champion, going up against Revolver.
Well, the top 2 seeds you said, but here they are in the semis, not in the finals. Boston's Ironside already in the finals. The 3 seed coming in, Ironside has not lost. They're at a 1-point win over Revolver. Revolver was the second best team and beat Doublewide earlier this tournament. But Austin won the national championship last year, certainly capable when they went to nationals last year, lost to Revolver in pool play, came back and beat him in the finals. It could happen again.
One of the big things for this Doublewide team is a loss of a lot of their big names from last year.
Well, they had a lot of Florida guys that helped them win that championship. Guys like Kurt Gibson, who's still on the team but not here, but Brody Smith, Cole Sullivan, Chris Gibson, and Tim Garrett. They were really huge pieces. They're not playing for Doublewide. Doublewide, a different team here at the U.S. Open.
And what about for Revolver? What do you think will be some of the key points for them?
Well, Revolver still missing some pieces, and they have some new names as too. Bart Watson, Robbie Cahill, no longer suiting up for Doublewide, but they still have a heck of a lot of talent. Ashlyn Joy, Bo Kittredge, very strong overall group for Revolver.
So one of the big additions for Doublewide is going to be a player from Pittsburgh, about 1,500 miles away, Tyler DiGirolamo.
Well, 2 players from En Saboneur's 2-time championship team, and the big one, Tyler DiGirolamo, obviously a breakout player at last year's national tournament. This year in Madison, he did it again, helping Nick Kazmarek's Pittsburgh team to the championship. Tyler DiGirolamo could be the next Bo Kittredge, who's a guy who's been long established as one of the super athletes in the sport of ultimate. Originally from Alaska, he played college at Colorado from Mama Bird, a few years with Johnny Bravo, now relocated to San Francisco, one of the special athletes in the game.
Talking to him is certainly a very interesting thing to understand exactly where he comes from and why he does what he does and plays the sport that he loves.
Absolutely.
So, opening poll coming up. It's Doublewide and Revolver. Lots more to jump into. We'll be right back here in Raleigh. The U.S. Open Championships are presented by the Discraft Ultra Star, the ultimate sport disc, official championship disc of USA Ultimate since 1991. The 2013 USA Ultimate U.S. Open here in Raleigh, North Carolina. It has been hot the last couple of days. Fortunate for these two teams coming into play here. The sun is going down and the lights are on for Doublewide and Revolver. Starting lineup for Doublewide, their cutters, Max Cook, Kieran Thomas, Michael Natenberg, and Tyler DiGirolamo. The Pittsburgh pair right there toward the bottom, Alex Thorne, Jeff Lascorn, and Kevin Christian along the back line. For Revolver out of San Francisco under head coach Mike Payne, Josh Wiseman, Cassidy Rasmussen, Devin Anderson, and Evan Boucher, along with Bo Kittredge, Joel Schlackett, and Nick Schlad. So it'll be Revolver to pull first.
Revolver's only loss in pool play by 1 point to Ironside. Doublewide with a bit of a skeleton squad, but the fact of the matter remains they still have the players to pull off a victory here.
20 for air pull, gentlemen, no offside.
Guys like Thorne and DiGirolamo and Natenberg and some of the guys from the D-line, Jared Wolf, Ethan Pollock, Valley Renshaw. Some guys who won't be intimidated by the spotlight whatsoever. These are 2 of the premier teams in Ultimate, looking deep right off the back, and a miscommunication in search for DiGirolamo.
Here at the WRAL Soccer Center in Raleigh, North Carolina, with 2-time Wake Forest Ultimate captain Evan Lepler, Mike Cousins. Semifinal number 2 of the men's division, and a trip to the finals against Boston's Ironside on the line, just underway here in this game.
Perfect, Kevin. Good job. Inside, Kevin. Inside, Kevin. Inside.
Already spirited chatter from both the sidelines and players on the field.
Had a deep look open, but didn't pull the trigger. One of the question marks for Revolver coming to this game was Team USA member Ashlyn Joy, a guy who played at UC Davis, has come from an Ultimate family, hurt his ankle a couple weeks ago, played a little bit this weekend. He played a good chunk of the game against Ironside, but it's unclear how much, if at all, he will play here in the semifinals for Revolver. Mike Payne says if he doesn't play, different guys will need to step up in his absence.
Doorstep right over the middle.
Yeah, yep.
Mike Natenberg on the mark. Former Callahan runner-up back in 2005 for Texas. Obviously a lot of Stanford guys on Revolver, a lot of Texas guys on Doublewide, and Revolver strikes first.
Patient on the goal line, going to Tim Gilligan.
Was chatting with Mike Payne, the head coach of Revolver, before the game. In terms of keys, he talked about spacing offensively. He knows who Doublewood has brought with them here to Raleigh. He also knows that Revolver should have a little bit more lively legs, youthful legs. They're one of the younger elite club teams in the field right now, and he's hoping to use that spacing to create opportunities to embrace that athleticism in the semifinals.
Earlier today, a universe point win for Ironside over Ring of Fire. Closely contested game. Raleigh with the early lead, took half. They were up 3 in the second half. So Revolver and Austin vying for that 4 p.m. time slot to wrap up the U.S. Open and look for, in just the second year of this tournament, a crown.
So Revolver starts with a break.
Need a hand, guys. Got it.
As far as defensive keys for Revolver, their coach Mike Payne, a former coach at Stanford, one of the founding members of this Revolver team as a player himself back in '06. He said defensively they need to have good, strong marks to help limit their hucks. Alex Thorne with the disc. He himself was a top 5 Callahan finisher during Pittsburgh's first national title season. Kieran Thomas has been a huge player for Doublewide all weekend long, but unable to come down with that disc.
Over the middle to Schlockett. Force him flick, and he dumps it off for Greenwood. Now right on the goal line, and that is an easy touch. Right through the defense for Alexander Bremer. He's 24 years old. I don't know that he's ever shaved in his life.
Probably hasn't. Probably hasn't.
I got it.
That was really easy for Revolver, wasn't it?
It looked a little bit too easy, as a matter of fact, getting through there as he sneaks away. And you see Jeff Lashcorn to the backside of that D. He realizes once that backhand is gone, there's no chance.
And that's sort of the question. With Doublewide's roster, about 14, 15 guys, will they have the legs to compete with a team of the caliber of Revolver in game number 8 of the weekend? Doublewide did go 5-2, and in their 5 wins, they look pretty dominant for the record. But fell to Ironside and fell to Mike Payne's team from San Francisco. Mike Payne started playing Ultimate in the early 90s at Stanford, where he was part of a Nationals caliber team. They finished second 3 times in his 5 years.
And he's not far removed from his playing days either, only 3 years retired.
Last year was 2010 when he said he was more of just a dump and would handle in some of the early games, play a point or two in the finals of big tournaments. But one of the great ultimate minds and somebody who truly loves the game.
Pull from Tim Gilligan gets this possession started for Doublewide.
Scuba over the top. Here's DiGirolamo.
A little bit different than when we saw him a month ago, sporting the faux hawk. And that goes just wide out of bounds on a layout from Andrew Walsh.
You know, DiGirolamo, when he played for Pittsburgh in Madison, he basically took on a Kurt Gibson-like role. He could be a deep. That's a nice try, but he couldn't come up with it. Tyler could be a deep, but he was more primarily around the disc, every third throw, a guy that Pittsburgh wanted to touch the disc very frequently. For this Doublewide team in his first ever tournament with them, he's certainly much more of a role player. A role player with great ability. It's going to be interesting to see over the course of the season in the Triple Crown Tour how Doublewide further implements him into the lineup. This is trouble for Doublewide. 3 straight breaks for Revolver.
Zach Travis was sprinting full field down there, and they found him rewarding the hard effort, getting toward the end zone. And the 25-year-old makes it a 3-zip game with Revolver the early lead.
Timeout!
And now Doublewide a much-needed timeout.
Steve.
Well, Doublewide without a coach. 3 captains, Jeff Lawscorn, Valley Renshaw, and Jared Wolf. Mike Natenberg, a member of the USA World Games team, certainly a leader in his own right. But it has been all Revolver so far. They look like the much more lively team early here in the second semi.
A refresher on the rules of Ultimate, a 7-on-7 game. Already, Revolver getting close to halfway toward the end of this first half. You get to 8, and that's halftime. And a self-officiated game, something that we haven't really delved deep into here, is the spirit of the game and the way the game works between the players on the field.
In between these two teams, they've had some very intense, fiery games in the past, but knowing how that coach of Revolver, Mike Payne, works with the U.S. national team, Mike Natenberg, there's incredible mutual respect. Their goal is to have a clean, intense, but spirited game here in the semifinals.
And it's been a great crowd on hand all afternoon to watch these games.
And with the observers, we've been really lucky to be able to hear them down on the field. Really, it takes you inside the game in a way that usually you're not privy to. This is a huge point right here for Doublewide. Somebody needs to make a play. Mitch Dengler, the head observer, with that's Stephen Hubbard in the green jersey. Also Walter Kwong and Keith Temple for the best.
Got your hand, sir.
Notice how on this offensive line, it's not Thorne, it's not DiGirolamo. This is mostly Texas born and bred on this offensive line here. Somebody needs to make a play for Doublewide.
And you got a lot of tough guys on this team, and not T-O-U-G-H, T-U-F-F.
That's right, Texas Ultimate Frisbee friends. Oh, that's a bad throw from Natenberg. Was there contact? Looks like he's calling a foul.
Kevin Richardson tried to get that, and even at his 6'4" height, well out of his reach.
Looked like there was some contact on the throw. No contest from Sam Canner, Carlton product, now playing in San Francisco.
So this disc will come in, stalling 0.
But we'd be remiss, we're talking a lot about the guys that Doublewide is missing. Revolver, one of their captains, Yokawa Oka, was with the team the first couple of days, had to go back west to get some things done, so he's not here. He's one of the older veteran members of this Revolver team. Also missing guys like Russ Wynn and Tom James, John Levy, Patrick Bayless.
Far corner. Doublewide gets on the board. Michael Kramer. So 3-1, and finally Doublewide is able to put one in the end zone.
Well, I seem to remember another semifinal game that started 3-0.
And it probably was about 2 hours ago.
Natenberg directing traffic. So confident with the disc. He has all the throws. And you might call Mike Natenberg just Mr. Ultimate. He embodies everything about the game. He's been playing for quite a while.
The impressive part, though, is that he didn't play Ultimate until he got to Texas. He was a high school basketball player.
Well, that's a lot of college Ultimate players discover the game once they get into college and realize that it's a great sport and you can play very competitively and travel across the country and
the world.
For many of these players, internationally, as we've seen at a tournament like the US Open, teams from 5 different countries. An exhibition last night between the USA team that's headed to the World Games and the national team from Colombia.
You have more than 650 athletes coming down here for the 2nd annual US Open. Last year was out in Colorado Springs. Another great area for Ultimate here, and Raleigh has been an absolutely fantastic host city. Turned out in great numbers. The fans have to watch these games and be a part of the Ultimate convention.
This is the first real O point for Revolver. And there's the first touch for Kittredge.
Devin Anderson sends it back to the middle of the field. Kittredge, just an all-around incredibly interesting guy and phenomenal athlete.
He is a unique bird. And he was a great player for Colorado's Mama Bird when he was in college.
Ryan Bigley, the D, turns it back to Doublewide. Walsh takes some time to think about it. A loose mark. DiGirolamo back into the game. This is Michael Mathis, still in college right now at TCU. Looked like a hand block there from Josh Weissman.
He tried to sneak that high flick, which is a risky throw. This is the real first big club tournament for Mike Mathis. Doublewide thinks he could be one of their breakout players, much like Dalton Smith was last year, right down to the fact that they both have red hair. Dalton Smith may have set the tone in the championship game last year at Club Nationals in Sarasota. A great layout D right off the bat. Revolver had crushed Doublewide earlier in the tournament. Doublewide avenged that loss in a huge way for their first ever national title.
Cassidy Rasmussen there colliding with Michael Mathis. We're going to try and sort this one out.
Uncontested foul.
Uncontested foul.
It's back here. It's right here.
Doublewide's also missing current tough star Will Driscoll, who's traveling, barnstorming across the country with the Next Gen All-American College Player Tour.
Anytime you're ready, gentlemen.
Next Gen scrimmaged against each of these top teams here at the US Open the past couple weeks. Here's Kittredge.
That's about the easiest catch you'll see him make all day. Kittredge, the 07 grad of Colorado, makes it a 4-1 Revolver edge.
You know, obviously he looks really athletic. He has ridiculously long legs. He is a natural sprinter. I don't think I've ever seen anybody with a better first step. It's just his stride is unlike anybody else's in the game. And one thing that Mike Payne sold him on when Bo Kittredge moved along with his good buddy Martin Cochran from Boulder, Colorado out to San Francisco, he told him, Bo, we're going to use you as a role player. You're not going to have to do everything. You're going to be doubly as effective, you're going to be able to go about your business and get the job done, and that's exactly what he's been for a great Revolver team.
Now go down to the sideline. It's our pleasure to be joined by Kara Crouch, a member of the 2013 USA Ultimate World Games team. So what has the experience been like for you with the national team?
It's been incredible. This is my second time on the World Games team, and this is a totally different experience, different teammates. I'm lucky enough to be able to play with my husband, Michael Natenberg, who's on the field behind me right now. So that experience, being able to play with him on the same team, has been absolutely incredible.
What's it like to watch your husband play in a game like this? Most of the weekend you've been playing with Showdown, so you haven't crossed paths with Mike too much.
That's right. We got to play together last night against Team Columbia, which was great. I'm sure he's very tired right now. We've had practices all weekend in addition to these games, so he's playing great. I'm sure he's very tired, though.
Kara Crouch joining us of the USA World Games team. You guys had a scrimmage against Colombia last night. What did that do to improve your team?
Especially on the women front, I'd never seen the Colombian women before, and they're incredibly athletic, incredibly fast players. So it was great to see them early so we could learn how to adjust to their speed and athleticism. It's going to help us a lot going into the World Games.
When you're playing with your husband on the same team, how much do you talk to each other during the game, or is it more you'll talk after the game?
Yeah, definitely. We went into it deciding that we'd treat each other like teammates. So we talk as much as we would to other teammates, and then we kind of decompress after the games and between tournaments and things like that.
Well, you get to travel a lot for the World Games, but
right.
I know that you and Michael are also both teachers, and you've spent summers traveling. What's your favorite place that you've gone, either in Ultimate or just for pleasure?
Wow. Definitely top of the list would be Australia. We got to play the 2010 Worlds together there on separate teams, but together, and we got to travel in Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asia for a while. It was incredible, playing Ultimate the whole time.
Well, that sounds really great. Well, Kara, thank you so much for the time. We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Kara Crouch, a member of the 2013 USA Ultimate World Games team, and her husband looking to make a trip to the finals.
Well, they're back within two. Kieran Thomas hauled in the score. Doublewide has found its offensive rhythm, but, you know, against a team like Revolver, at 4-2, there's obviously plenty of time, but Revolver's not a team that's easy to come back against by any means.
One of the things we didn't get to talk to Kara about was, I imagine, since she started playing Ultimate, that she hasn't taken a lot of time off, but her freshman year at the University of Texas playing for the Melee squad, she missed a month because she was in rehearsals for a play, Alice in Wonderland.
Multi-talented.
As the perpetually late rabbit. I'm late, I'm late, I'm late. 4-2.
2005, she won the Callahan, and her husband came in second. So they nearly had the first couple sweep the Callahan Awards that year for Texas.
Kittredge turfs it along the near sideline, looking to get it away to Evan Boucher.
One of the things about Bo Kittredge, when he was in college, he was an unbelievable athlete. His throws were okay. His throws have improved over the years. That looked like a regression to his early collegiate days playing the sport.
Even tried to be a walk-on for the track team at Colorado.
And he went to the coach and said, let me run your fastest guy in the 400. I bet you I can beat him. His coach, the coach of Colorado, wouldn't have it. But he was telling us last night that he hopes to start running competitively once again. Here's a great opportunity for Kittredge. Misplayed it once, but he recovered.
Kittredge versus Kramer, and the D wins out.
5.
Well, Michael Kramer had position, but he just couldn't get off the ground, and he had both hands on the disc, unable to stop the rotation. You know, Bo Kittredge didn't get there, but his presence alone was enough to disrupt the play.
Wide open into the end zone. And they go for Evan Boucher. How much do you think that this shorter roster for Doublewide will hurt them on a possession like that goes the span of the field in about under 30 seconds?
There's no question Doublewide will huck more often in this game and in this tournament because they know that they can't get into the marathon points. They know that they can't work it up the field over and over again. After a missed opportunity, really tough to play defense when you don't have great depth at the tournament, and that's just too easy. And you could see from the body language of Doublewide that that was a simple revolver score.
The team out of San Francisco has spread it out, 5 scores and 5 different players with an assist.
This Revolver team began in 2006.
20 for a hand, gentlemen.
Mike Payne, a big part of the building process, and their goal was to build a team that would transform young players into stars. And you look at that resume, clearly they have exceeded expectations. But one team did deny them the three-peat. Last year in October, Doublewide won its first national title after knocking on the door for a while.
Yeah, ever since Doublewide missed nationals in 2006, they finished 14th, 11th, 5th, 2 straight years, tied for 3rd, and then ascended their way to the top last year.
Well, they certainly made baby steps every year.
DiGirolamo, the hammer, and a two-handed grab. Kieran Thomas. Back to within 2 at 5-3.
Kieran Thomas is unassuming but excellent. He's not that tall, but my, can he get up for it? He has incredibly long arms. He had a great sky in the championship game last year. You know, he's a guy who played for Texas Tough, joined the team as an undergrad. He was one of 7 Tough players that was asked to join the team here in 2013. He's the only one left. Kieran Thomas said, I guess that worked out okay.
DiGirolamo there with the assist on the goal, and he did that a lot in the championship game too, not only scoring a lot but distributing a lot, which might have been a little bit surprising considering how dominant he was when it came to pulling down discs in the end zone. But to get him and Alex Thorne on this team was a little bit of a process for Doublewide because their captains got together, sent an email to DiGirolamo and to Thorne and said, hey, right after nationals were over for the college game, would you be interested in coming down to Texas and playing with us? Crickets. No answer. So then they got Will Driscoll, and they said, well, next gen tour, who are 2 guys that are on the potential to be on the club circuit that don't really have a strong commitment to a team? He says, well, here are 2 guys. They just won a national title. And then so Max Cook, one of the captains for Doublewide, gave him a call, and he said, yeah, we'll think about it. And 3 days later, lo and behold, they were committed to play for a team 1,500 miles away.
Well, in the Ultimate World, it was treated as breaking news for 2 of the top young players entering the club scene. And DiGirolamo and Thorne had played for a club team in the Pitt area, Oakland, but not a Nationals caliber squad yet. Nick Kazmarek continues to coach them. They may become one soon. But certainly a huge pickup for Doublewide. The most interesting thing for Doublewide is going to be when their entire squad is when they have Driscoll and Gibson and LeMasters and other guys who aren't here, and when they're completely healthy, hopefully later in the fall.
And a part of the difficult decision to leave that Oakland club team was that for those 2 players, it was the only team that they had ever played with club-wise was all the Pitt guys.
Well, Thorne played in the Pitt area growing up for Coach Nick Kazmarek. DiGirolamo didn't play Ultimate at all until he got to college. He's another one of those guys, just a super athlete, an incredible motor and work ethic. At this point, just up the 4 side. Doublewide is just not bringing much to the table from a dictation standpoint defensively. You know, it'd be too harsh to say they're going through the motions because that's not what they're doing at all, but they just don't have that extra gear that you need to try to make things happen.
A perfect 5 for 5 in the red zone now for Revolver. You're right, because if they're going to dictate things, they've got to be strong on the defensive end, and so far it's been Revolver seemingly doing whatever it pleases.
This Revolver team hoping to get back
for a hand,
to the title game for the 4th straight year. Talking about the title game of Club Nationals, certainly the title game of the U.S. Open in their more immediate future if they keep it rolling up by 3 here in the first half. There's Nick Schlag, a key handler on the offense. Schlag, one of the captains, he's more of the long-term thinker, the calculating captain who sees the whole board, has much more of a calm, introspective approach. Oh my, great hand block. That's Jordan Marcy in his first year with the team. He's a rising senior at Stanford, one of the key up-and-coming defenders for Revolver. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen very often to Alex Thorne.
Leahy back to Kenner.
Pick call, pick call, pick call.
And that'll go back 1 pass on the pick.
Hey, guys, back here.
Kevin, my boy. Put your body tight. Inside, Kevin, inside.
Right over the middle once again. Connect with Andrew Hagan, a 24-year-old. 7 goals, 7 different players have scored, and 7 different players have dished out an assist.
We just got to look at Ashland Joy in the Team USA hat. He has not played yet in this game, but he's certainly enjoying the 7-3 lead from his club team.
Did you call timeout?
Nice inside break flick. Andrew Hagan, another guy who stepped up in the absence of some other players.
So timeout taken by Revolver. You mentioned this earlier, that there are captains for the double-wide team, but you have such an experienced guy in Mike Payne at the helm for the team out of San Francisco. Do you think it gives a team an advantage to have a head coach versus not having a head coach?
You know, I think there's some advantage in having a head coach you believe in.
Jordan's being disciplined about putting a nice fundamental mark on it. We have to be disciplined about not giving too much cushion on a guy deep. Right? And you have to be disciplined about attacking the corner. Okay? Over and over and over again. They're already tired. You guys are not tired. Oh yeah. Okay? Let's keep it up.
Not enough.
That much has been evident so far.
What is it?
Can a team be successful without a coach? Yes. Is it nice to have one of the best coaches in Ultimate on your sideline? Absolutely.
And he pointed out what seems to be the big difference so far is the exhaustion factor for Revolver versus Doublewide. A deeper roster, and over the course of a weekend, once you get 7, 8 games in, that's really going to start to make a big difference.
There's no question about it. Doublewide's most impressive performance in my mind was against Ring. Because they were missing so many guys in Ring here at home, I really thought Ring was going to be more competitive in that game. And 15-12, it was a close game down the stretch, but Doublewide was up 8-4 at half, I believe. And, you know, with DiGirolamo in the middle, a newcomer to this pro flight on the club scene, 81 and 18. Those are 2 great players, both who came in second in the Callahan voting their final years at the college level.
Those games you were mentioning Thursday, 2 wins and a loss for Doublewide. Going deep again, Kieran Thomas set some big catches for them and makes it a 7-4 game. He doesn't look tired.
I'm not sure if Thomas continues to burn one of the weaker defenders, or they're still putting a great guy on him and he's still getting open. It's amazing how often Thomas is getting open. And DiGirolamo with a decent backhand throw.
That's his 20th assist of the weekend. 3 of the 4 goals in this game for Doublewide have been scored by Thomas. for those Thursday games for Doublewide. Taking down Chicago Club 15-7, a win over Ring 15-12, but then a difficult loss against the same Revolver team 15-8.
You know, I think part of that was the fact that it was the third game of the day under the sweltering sunshine. Revolver just wore them down. And Revolver's kicking themselves. Revolver, in their opinion, should have been the undefeated team, not Boston's Ironside. Revolver was up 14-13. Ironside held serve to tie it up. Revolver had an offensive point to win that game in pool play, had it down on the goal line, and a nice inside break from Ashlyn Joy was just out of the hands of its intended target, Nathan White. One George Stubbs huck later, and Ironside had the improbable win. And I said it in the recap video, truly an ultimate instant classic here in Raleigh, North Carolina.
To go down to Universe Point, that's one that will definitely stand out from this weekend for a long time to come.
And Ironside has a knack for doing it on Universe Point, as we saw in the first semifinal. Their first lead of the entire game came when it was 14-13 at the end. Here, Revolver trying to take half.
Lots of options, but a little bit of physical contact. Michael Mathis getting a little too close on the mark. And they'll go with a team misconduct foul there because of the physical play.
Nice and easy, Red!
Evan Boucher, there's Kittredge looking to break himself open, and it's Kittredge who helps Revolver take half, 8-4.
A very business-like half of ultimate for Revolver. Nice inside break from Josh Weissman, and not much that you can do about that. Going to be interesting to hear what the Doublewide captain has to say.
We're going to talk to Jared Wolf.
Revolver looking so very strong here in half number one.
So 8-4 is our score with Revolver over Doublewide here at the half. And Jared Wolf, one of the captains for this Doublewide team, joining us now down on the sideline. Jared, what are your thoughts on this first half of play?
Well, obviously we didn't start great. Came out sloppy, 3 straight miscues, just kind of giving them the disc. And a team like Revolver, they're going to make you pay. And just got to clean it up.
This late into the weekend, obviously it's been very hot, very humid. How is your team holding up physically?
I think we're fine. Obviously we didn't bring the most guys, but we had a long rest after our game today, and I think we feel good. There's no excuse.
What's the key to getting a break to start the second half?
I think we just come out, play hard. We have some things we're focusing on with our marks, taking away what they want to do. And if we do that, I think we'll be successful.
All right, Jared, thank you very much. Good luck in the second half.
All right, thanks a lot.
So he says there that the short roster, the hot weather, not necessarily a difference in the first half of play. So it's 8-4. Revolver taking half against Doublewide with a trip to the finals on the line. USA Ultimate US Open Championships are presented by the Discraft Ultra Star, the ultimate sport disc, the official championship disc of USA Ultimate since 1991. Nighttime in Raleigh, North Carolina, the site of the 2013 USA Ultimate US Open. And at half, it's San Francisco 8 and Austin 4 with a trip to the finals on the line. Evan Lepler and Mike Cousins. So in that first couple possessions of that first half, you could tell that there was a little bit of confusion from Doublewide. The possessions just weren't all complete. The passes were a little bit awry, and then it seemed like Revolver started to take over.
The first 3 points of both semifinals were very similar. In the first one, Ring scored 3 straight points, looked like the more energized team. In this second one, Revolver, 3 consecutive breaks to storm out of the gates with a 3-zip lead. The difference is that it's not clear that Doublewide has the motors and the legs to get back into the game as Revolver takes half by 4.
We heard Mike Payne say, they're tired. We're not tired. That's been a big difference because when it comes to goal line situations, Revolver has been able to dictate the play and do seemingly whatever it pleases.
And I think Mike Payne really likes what he saw in that first half. We'll talk to him in a few minutes, but he had to because he didn't even really rely on his stars. You know, Bo Kittredge didn't play that many points. They didn't have too many O points because Doublewide didn't score that much. It was some of the new players that delivered some of the big highlights.
So let's take a look at those first half highlights. Yeah, Bo Kittredge only had a couple points there in the first half.
He's been a role player for this Revolver team. That's what Mike Payne sold him on. But Revolver has become a young and talented army. To the end zone, simple backhand. Doublewide's red zone defense was not really there. DiGirolamo went for the foot block, couldn't get it. Here's a big shot from Mike Natenberg to the end zone. And Doublewide, that was their first score of the game. But Michael Mathis on the mark and just wide open to Kittredge deep.
For the first 7 goals that Revolver scored in the half, they had 7 different players score those goals and 7 different players dish out assists.
You know what? One name we haven't mentioned yet for Doublewide is Ethan Pollock. Not sure if he was on the field in that first half. He was such a huge contributor for the team from Austin over the course of the tournament. Kieran Thomas has been arguably Doublewide's best player so far, impacting them on both sides of the disc. But again, Revolver up line, too much speed, too much energy. The inside break, not much you can do about that if you're Doublewide defensively. Here was another highlight for the Austin club. DiGirolamo deep for Thomas. It's been those two guys, Mike Natenberg too, but the inside flick break for the final score of the half helped San Francisco lead by 4.
So Kieran Thomas with 3 of the 4 goals scored for Doublewide. Bo Kittredge putting a couple on the board. So he's the leading scorer, and he had 2 of probably the easiest goals in that first half. Now, granted, the first time that these two teams met here in this tournament was back on Thursday. It was a 15-8 win for Revolver over Doublewide. It was the 3rd game of the day, hot, humid conditions. But given that score at 15-8, does this first half surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me a whole lot, but with that said, you know, these two teams played 9:15 this morning. Here we are around 9 o'clock at night. They should have gotten a bunch of rest throughout the day. The interesting thing for Doublewide in the second half, they're going to use this half to try to get better. They're probably not talking about winning this game right now. Yeah, they want to win it. They would love to come back and deal their rival Revolver a crushing loss. But most importantly, they're trying to continue to develop the flow and the cohesiveness with their new players, trying to get better as the season progresses.
Let's go down to the sideline and talk to the head coach of Revolver, Mike Payne. A look back at this first half for you, and we got a little bit into your huddle there. We heard a little bit of what you had to say to your team. You said, they're tired, we're not tired. How much did energy play a factor in the first half?
I mean, I think it plays a pretty big role. We have about 20 players playing. They have 16. That's not a big difference, but they played a lot of close games with 16, and we've had a lot of kind of runaway games with 20. The other thing that's helping us is that we just have a lot of young players. We've had a lot of turnover this year with veterans leaving, and in some ways people would think that's a bad thing. But for us, we've got a lot of guys who are just out of college who are in great shape, who can win all day long.
Coach, which young player stood out to you in the first half?
Ooh, good question. With us, we've got 7 brand new guys, so it's hard to pick. But I would say that Lucas Dahlman is playing great fundamental defense and also just has great pump fakes. He's moving the ball well. Andrew Hagan is playing great defense as well. And then the last guy I would highlight is Nathan White, who's really moving the ball well as a handler behind the play.
Great distribution on your scoring and your assists. Is that the way you'd like to play every game?
Yeah, I mean, optimally, our theory on Revolver is that everybody has a role in the finals and nationals, and that should be an on-field role. And so far, you know, in this game and also at this tournament, I feel like a lot of the young guys, basically all the young guys, are heading towards a role in the finals and nationals. So we're a real democratic team if we can be, and I'm encouraged by things so far.
Democratic 4th of July weekend, it only fits. Mike Payne, thanks.
Thanks very much.
Head coach of Revolver, Mike Payne. That's a little bit of the mantra we've heard over the course of the weekend as well, is that we want this to be a learning weekend for our teams to be able to build chemistry, and that seems like what they're doing.
And teams are better when they're not relying on 1 or 2 guys, because great defensive teams can shut down 1 or 2 top players at the club level. But if you have an army of players, you're deep, you can shuffle them in and out, and they're really interchangeable. That's what made Revolver so tough this weekend, in particular in the first half.
So Doublewide will need an answer here in the second half as they are down And they go into the second half of play looking to come back, answer with a score.
On Boston's iron side, already into the finals, coming from behind to beat Ring from here in Raleigh. If it is indeed Boston Revolver, we will get the rematch that many have been hoping for, pining for, after those two teams, Boston and San Fran, played what was the game of the tournament, in my opinion, 15-14 Universe Point. We got a lot of great highlights to show you tomorrow if we do get that matchup.
That game at 4 o'clock, and we'll have that for you right here on ESPN 3. Getting set for second half play. Last year it was Doublewide with the championship, and Revolver 2 years prior to that. So your national champions the last 3 years are playing in this game, and we're looking forward to a very good second half. Could this first point of this second half be the most important one in the game?
Absolutely, and someone from Doublewide needs to make a defensive play. Defensive plays, especially layouts, are contagious. And if one guy comes up with a huge bid here, that could change the entire course of the second half for sure.
So opening pull coming. And despite a trip to the finals on the line, competitors standing right next to one another on the sidelines, they're excited. Jared Wolf right there, one of the captains of this Doublewide team on the right.
You think he's asking him about his beard?
So, how long would it theoretically take to shave that? I never thought about it. It's got to be hot this weekend with a beard, right?
I would think so. Get a machete to shave that thing.
Alex Thorne with the disc in his hand. The rookie here for Doublewide to pull.
One thing that I don't think is going to be a factor, but it's something to ponder.
10 seconds to pull.
This is really the first game of this tournament that's being held under the lights
5.
here at this soccer complex. Will that change anything? Probably not. But neither of these teams have played under the lights at this field before.
They played under the natural light for the entirety of the weekend. A lot of sunblock, a lot of perspiration. Thorne along the far sideline with Boucher. Back end of the dump. And a stoppage of play.
Zero.
They'll come in stalling 0.
This is going to stay at Rasmussen. Andrew Welch on the north for Doublewide.
Cassidy Rasmussen, one of the tri-captains of this team. There's Kittredge. It seems like every time he's touched it, he's been in the end zone. 2 scores for him, and now a big backhand huck into the end zone. And Revolver starts the second half with a score from Kittredge to Weissman.
You are good. It seems like every time Bo Kittredge touched the disc, he's in the end zone. Well, not this time, but he heard you. And a great deep shot from Kittredge. That's not a throw he ever would have made as a member of Mama Bird, but he made some big hucks in Nationals last year. He's gotten more comfortable. Doesn't have the most pure throwing form. It doesn't need to be pretty as long as your teammate catches it in the end zone.
How much does Kittredge's stride? He stands at 6'3". When you stand next to him, he feels bigger than that. But how much does his stride help him to open up space for that throw, especially on a big backhand?
Well, you're never going to hand block him. You know, he has such a great step. The best players that I've seen have remarkably quick pivots. And, you know, Bo's not necessarily in that class because he's much more of a downfield cutter than a handler. But the guys who can get the disc, set their pivot foot, go to the right, back to the left, back to the right, so instantaneously, they're really impossible to mark. I was talking with someone earlier. I remember Josh Zipperstein for Brown. He couldn't have been more than 5'8", 5'9", but won the Callahan on the back of his great speed, incredible explosiveness, and his ability to just pivot so quickly.
No, this year's Callahan winner, Dylan Freechild, not necessarily a huge guy either, and people say he's pretty much unguardable.
He's a very similar player. That's a nice layout for Alex Thorne. Nearly a Callahan winner himself. Callahan Award, the Heisman Trophy of Ultimate, awarded to one player in the men's college field and one player in the women's field every year. Dylan Freechild from Oregon's Ego winning it this year, but Oregon falling in the finals to Pittsburgh with Alex Thorne and Tyler DiGirolamo leading the way in the semifinals, I should say. Claire Chastain of UNC Wilmington, the women's Callahan winner this year.
And that ended up being the second straight title for Pittsburgh. Head coach of that team, Nick Kazmarek, on hand here, not only as part of the USA Ultimate Convention in downtown Raleigh, but to watch two of his former players.
Nick Kazmarek gave a really good speech about overcoming failure. And you may think, well, he's won 2 national championships. What does he know about failure? But, you know, he's a guy who has really taken an incredible approach to getting better. He hasn't always been in the spotlight, but he has been a youth mentor to so many in that area, that region, a transformative figure for Pittsburgh Ultimate. Not just Pittsburgh, the school, but Pittsburgh, the region, the town, the youth scene.
And he's a teacher, too. I think we see that as a common theme with not just players, but also coaches. Matt Sang, the head coach of Fury, also a teacher as well.
Not in, not in.
Not in, right on the doorstep. Natenberg. And that's Doublewide's 5th point. They're back within 4 as he finds Max Cook.
Well, once he goes with his momentum past the end zone, he needs to set his pivot foot on the goal line. He checked it in. That's completely legal. And Doublewide with the easy score. You're not allowed to set your pivot foot in the end zone, obviously. Your momentum can carry you a couple steps, and as long as it's not unreasonable, a travel won't be called. But if your momentum takes you into the end zone, when you catch it outside the end zone, you need to go back, set your pivot foot on the goal line. If you don't, it's a violation. But Natenberg, a veteran, he did everything right.
That's his 3rd assist. Meanwhile, on the other side, here is Revolver gets set to go back on offense. They've had 9 goals, 9 different players win the assist. The last time, Bo Kittredge with a major backhand huck. And there's Kittredge, right on the line, number 50.
You're good.
Kittredge out there for the O point, and he's usually the first look. He makes the catch, stumbles. He's a guy who's hit the ground a few times in his day. Revolver has really made a living working Kittredge underneath. Every once in a while, they'll hit him deep. But they don't even really need him to make incredible skies. Their patient, progressive offense often leads to scores like this one to Cassidy Rasmussen, who Mike Payne says is perhaps the smartest guy on their team from an ultimate IQ standpoint.
He goes with a cross-field cut and beats his mark, so a 10-5 score with Revolver doubling up Doublewide. Again, game is over, 1st to 15.
Second half was ridiculous.
You mentioned Bo Kittredge running underneath. For a guy who is as big as he is, as fast as he is that part of the role player mentality that Mike Payne sold him on when he came to this team?
Yeah, well, he's impossible to guard. He's impossible to guard oftentimes, even if the defender has an advantage, because he's so big, can accelerate, and also jump so high. So usually a defensive team is not going to want to let him just go deep freely. So he has the underneath basically anytime he wants it. Cassidy Rasmussen after the score. UC Santa Cruz product Rasmussen. He's the captain on this team that will be the guy to explain the strategic concepts. If Mike Payne's not there or they want a player to be the voice, he's the guy in the huddles that says, here's what we need to do from an X's and O's standpoint, and he's really good at it. Decent throw for Doublewide. Natenberg looking for it. A nice poach, but that left Thorne open underneath.
He goes backhand way too long to the end zone. Well, here's another part about this Doublewide team is that you have new guys like Thorne, like DiGirolamo. That one was intended for Natenberg, but they're new to the roster, and they don't get to practice with this team on a regular basis. The thought was that coming into this tournament, really earlier than a club team is used to playing at this part of the season, some teams will take off for July, is that they were going to start on the D-line, but we've seen them a lot on the O-line too.
Well, they're both tremendous offensive players. Doublewide missing guys like Gibson and Driscoll. You know, they've just sort of thrown him into the fire. Let him make mistakes.
Canner marked by DiGirolamo. That's exactly where they wanted to force it, was to the inside. Backhand huck, end zone to the back of the end zone. DiGirolamo D's it away, even though that was destined to land all the way beyond the end zone.
Looked like the disc was going out the back. DiGirolamo made sure to get out. That's a revolver turn.
No chance for Lucas Dahlman. But Dahlman, one of the guys that Mike Payne highlighted, played mixed in the past, part of the really good Polar Bears team. Now in his first year with Revolver, and he has made a huge impact. It's a nice
up the sideline. Now going deep, that's going to hang. Contested play, DiGirolamo. Looking like he did just about a month ago. When it's up in free space, you don't want to contest him for the dish.
He has an unbelievable knack for going up and getting it. That's a glimpse into why Doublewide recruited him to come be a part of the defending national champions.
Did a good one of that one?
He knows a thing or two about being a defending national champion.
I love HD.
And that is his 17th goal this weekend. That's why you recruit a player like that.
There are the two pit guys, Thorne and DiGirolamo. Sure, it's been a fun experience for them early on, a little bit out of their comfort zone. You know, they're so used to playing Pittsburgh-style ultimate. And there are a lot of similar concepts to what all top teams do, but every team has different nooks and crannies in their game plans.
Well, Pittsburgh's offense was such a diverse one, too, where they might come out and run 30 different plays at any given time.
That's not an exaggeration.
That's the type of point where you need a wristband like a quarterback to try and figure out what play you're running. Here in Raleigh, the winner of this game goes on to the finals to take on Boston's Ironside tomorrow. With Evan Lepler, Mike Cousins, glad to have you along with us here on what has been a fantastic weekend for the sport of ultimate. Boucher back to Kittredge near midfield. Kittredge sliding end zone, yes. That's the athleticism that really pays off there for Kittredge. No chance on the mark for Michael Kramer, and Kittredge just slides down to get it. First point of contact inbounds, the body swoops out.
Be interesting to see how close Kittredge actually was here to the sideline, but you said it, Kramer had no chance. Yeah, that right knee. That right knee was in bounds when he caught the disc.
Now, Bo Kittredge able to author a score there with his athleticism. Also able to author some children's books, too. You know, we talked to him the other night, and he describes it as he had a job at a boring internet company. And I said, you know what? I don't want to work here anymore. I'm going to quit. And he went ahead and launched his own line of children's books, along with his own website.
Those books. He's a very clever individual and a pretty amazing athlete at the same time.
Revolver 8-4. They took the half so far in a low-scoring start to the second half, 3-2. So an 11-6 advantage through their first 10 goals, 9 different players. That's Kittredge's third, but 10 different players with an assist as well, as they've been able to work it around and be that faceless army. Yeah, Kittredge says, I wrote a short book and I thought that was hard. And I said, well, I could write a long book then too. His advice to future authors or prospective authors, don't write a book. Harder than it seems.
I asked him what's it like to sell books. He's like, hard. Harder than I ever thought it would be.
Thomas lays out to keep the possession alive. Doublewide down by 5. Natenberg right off the hand of Max Cook.
Natenberg wanted Thomas deep, but it just wasn't there. And a little out of rhythm, Cook with a careless, unforced turnover. Not an easy catch, but one that Max Cook certainly used to making.
That hangs up, 2-on-1, flipped up, oh! Just in and out of the hands. That might have challenged for score of semifinal action so far.
2 double-wide players, Thomas and DiGirolamo, soar by. A foul was called. He still almost came down. That was off his head.
Right off the noggin for
Eric
Greenwood.
Greenwood, the former Oregon star. And no foul to the observers.
So Vert stack here for Doublewide after the turn.
That's an unbelievably good break right there from Loscorn.
And that time Cook did come out with it, but throws it right over the head of Kieran Thomas.
20 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 10 seconds. 17, 16, 15, 14.
They said no flick. There's a flick. End zone. And it's Doublewide, or rather Revolver doubling up Doublewide.
You can say no flick, but much easier said than stopped. Really nice put. And the in-the-air defense just hasn't been there.
That was really sloppy.
The deep shots.
So nobody knew there was a foul call or not. The whole time you just kind of stood there and you walked over and stood there.
Deep shots have been really easy for Revolver.
Don't let that happen again.
Well, just like these players are developing,
Timeout!
the observers are learning a thing or two.
First goal of the game for Greenwood. They continue to spread their scoring. So now 12-6, and Revolver is within 3 points of going to a title game. It looks like a victory is imminent here for Revolver, but still a lot to play for because they want to try and make this a learning experience for the team throughout the tournament, as Mike Payne told us at halftime.
There's no question about it. I thought it was really telling what he said. We want everybody on our team to feel like they will have a role in the finals at college nationals. Usually, teams shrink their rotations when you get to a game like that. Let's only play 13 or 14 guys. You've saved all your energy. You've conditioned the entire season. let's just have the best of the best. But no, that's not what Mike Payne wants. He really wants the army of 25 guys who have a serious role in the serious game of the season.
Well, a big weekend here for the sport of ultimate. Players from 5 different countries. Heard so many different languages spoken this weekend. 24 teams throughout the men's, the mixed, the women's, and this is just the first part of the Triple Crown Tour, a restructuring of this club circuit that will make things certainly more interesting and more competitive for all teams involved.
And if you're not familiar with the new structure, there's a very English Premier League feel to it. The top 8 teams at Club Nationals every year are in what's called the Pro Flight, and those 8 teams get admission into a few special Pro Flight tournaments. The top 4 of those teams, the semifinalists at Nationals, get into this, the US Open. But from there, the Elite Flight, the Classic Flight, and then an opportunity for anybody to play their way up into the upper levels. You can be relegated if you're not playing as well as you'd like, and any team can get up to the highest level of the hierarchy system, which is pretty cool.
Sam Canner, the pull for Revolver. Down to Doublewide. The first 2 times these teams met this weekend is back on Thursday. 15-8 was the final in favor of San Francisco's team over Austin. Now a shortened field for Revolver created not so much by the D, but just by the turn off Doublewide's passing. Thing is here, the winner of this game will go on to take on the Ironside tomorrow afternoon, right here on the same showcase field. That game between Ironside and Ring of Fire went to Universe Point. Right now, it doesn't seem like Revolver has quite been tested as much as Ironside was in its semifinal matchup.
Absolutely, and that'll be a huge advantage for Revolver if the San Francisco team can finish this here like we expect them to do. Now both teams will have, close to a full day's rest. The men's championship coming in the late afternoon tomorrow. And there's adrenaline, and it's a championship game, but when you're in the middle, late stages of the second half, certainly could be a factor. It's a good no call there by Andrew Hagan. DiGirolamo bumped him, but there was just no need to call the foul, and what a great catch.
Right arm extension from Sam Canner, racing down to get it. And that's where the energy portion comes in. The mark was there before he got there, and he just beat him to the spot.
I thought Alex was going to get that. I really did. Like, he was kind of out in front. I just figured he would bid.
And Thorne was right there behind him. 9 for 9 on tries in the red zone for Revolver. That one coming off of a turnover from Doublewide. And now San Francisco just 2 points away from a trip to the finals tomorrow afternoon.
Well, someone thought Thorne would get it. He had the advantage in terms of closeness to the disc, but he didn't have a great angle.
No. Really coming in from the backside on that play. And unless he's able to get his hand in there and make a play, it's likely a foul.
Well, this is the beginning of the Triple Crown Tour. We're going to have a fantastic triple header tomorrow here at the US Open. 3 great rematches on tap. And the grand finale likely to be Revolver and Ironside.
Tim Gilligan to pull for Revolver.
10 seconds.
24-year-old Tim Gilligan with a backhand pull about midway into the end zone.
Great D.
It's a rare time you'll see Tyler DiGirolamo not able to grab one. Going deep with Mac Taylor.
Not a guy we've talked about, but a guy who has international experience on the USA team that's headed to the World Games Colorado alum and really a difference maker for this Revolver team, who hasn't needed to take a huge role in this game, but that's a phenomenal D in terms of timing.
And he had to make up a lot of ground on that play too, which, considering they're up 7 goals, impressive that he's still going like that. Bobbled and caught in the end zone. Patrick Bayless. So Mac Taylor, the D, turns it around. Is that Devin Anderson? Now the 8 and the 0 got me with the line through the middle.
That is not a nice jersey for a broadcaster.
It looks like an 8.
Yeah, why do you have the diagonal lines in the middle of the 0? What possible reason could you have for that line? Whose idea was it to put that line there?
Here's a look at what we got coming up tomorrow here on ESPN 3 from Raleigh. We'll have Odyssey of Montreal, which will be going on to take on Mischief. That'll be 11 o'clock. On the women's side, it'll be another good matchup, a 7-time defending champion coming into play tomorrow.
And Washington, D.C. Scandal went on to win that game, so it'll be Scandal, not Riot, getting the shot at Fury in the final.
And Ironside awaits the winner of this one. Revolver 1 point away as the San Francisco team gets set to pull. Thorne going deep. Kieran Thomas, he's in.
One more big sprint for Doublewide.
That's the 4th time he's scored today. He had 3 of their first 4 goals. Every time they find him, it seems to be cutting upfield.
Deceptively quick, incredibly long. And look at him just take off. He can cut back in and then see you later. No chance for the Revolver defender. A perfect put to space.
And it was a good give and go there too for Thorne to free himself, getting the pass from Kevin Richardson, which set up the backhand.
That'll be a learning experience for Lucas Dahlman, who has had Thomas a lot of this game. Thomas has been arguably the best deep threat in this game, despite modest size, listed at 5'10". So now, all Doublewide needs is to score 8 in a row.
Well, the defending champions on the verge of going down here, but Revolver part of the mix as well. Champs in 2011 and 2010.
Kittredge nearly took off. Again, guarded by Kramer.
He wants to go deep.
Yeah, the fans would like it too. Here he is coming in.
Kittredge with the grab underneath. Maybe set up a give and go for ball. The initial looks on this offense here seem to be deep, and then put it underneath if you don't have anything.
Here it is.
Going deep, and that's game point. So it's Revolver on its way to the finals. Joel Schlockett with game point closes things out, and Revolver sends Doublewide's tournament to an end.
Very impressive performance by Revolver. Doublewide just ran out of gas. And they might admit to it now. You're not going to admit it in the middle of the game, but clearly Revolver had more energy, had more fire in this semifinal, and we've got what we've wanted. San Francisco's Revolver versus Boston's Ironside coming up tomorrow in the championship game here at the US Open.
15-7 final. Right now, let's take time to check out the Discraft Ultrastar Play of the Game.
Mac Taylor with a huge flick to the back of the end zone. And the story of the game, really, Doublewide is a very good defensive team, especially in the air, especially on deep shots. But they just ran out of gas. That was too easy. And Revolver made it look easy, winning by 8 points in this semifinal against a team that beat them in the national championship game. But obviously this Doublewide team very different here in 2013 than it was. Not necessarily worse come October, just very different.
We chatted with Revolver head coach Mike Payne at halftime, who was pleased with the effort then, and he joins us again now. Looking at the numbers from this one, Mike, you go 5 for 6 on Hucks, 9 for 9 in the red zone. So when you got down inside the brick mark, what was the key to your success there?
I think it's spacing. You know, the biggest focus for us on offense so far this year has been spacing. It's not throws, it's not hucks, it's not dump sets. It really is clearing space for your teammates. And our approach is actually very simple. It's get away from where the disc is going to go next. So we're trying to train a sense of ultimate flow as opposed to specific patterns.
Hey, Mike, I know you had some plans earlier this tournament to limit the hucking, but Doublewide's deep defense was lacking, and you abused that here in the finals. Was that something that you try to take advantage of?
I mean, not intentionally, to be honest. We have ultimate offense is very simple. Everyone basically plays the same offense, and we've got a similar pattern to everyone else. We cut deep, we come in, and that's our clear. And it just so turned out on this night that when we cut deep as part of our pattern that they couldn't stay with us.
Mike, you carry that iPad around on the sidelines. What exactly are you following or keeping track of?
So at a tournament like this where we actually have pretty low numbers, we're down to I think 18 or 19 functional players right now. Making sure that people are getting enough breaks is important. So I'm tracking how many points players are playing. I'm tracking goals thrown and scored. I'm tracking Ds, and then I'm also tracking timeouts in the score.
You got your rematch with Ironside. They beat you by 1 in a great game, perhaps the game of the tournament. As you look forward to tomorrow, what's the one key in your mind to coming out on top and winning this U.S. Open?
I think it's really what we did tonight, to be honest, which was we stayed humble and we executed on the very simple things. During the pregame, the thing I was yelling at the team nonstop was stick with the fundamentals. And I think that the crowd probably saw that we spaced very well. That's a fundamental of ultimate. We pivoted hard on offense when we had the disc. That's a fundamental of ultimate. And we set up our cuts well. When we lost to Ironside yesterday, to be honest, we were taking shortcuts. And a young team like us trying to win a tournament like this or a national championship can't afford to take shortcuts. So we just have to stick with the fundamentals.
Revolver on to the finals. Head coach Mike Payne, thank you and congratulations.
Thanks a lot, guys.
So he said it there. Stay humble, do the little things, and that's what's gotten them here for a chance to take down Ironside.
I'm already excited for this matchup. I've been excited since they played on Friday. It was such a great game and so many spectacular plays. Just great back and forth, great entertainment, but also great tactics employed. Two excellent coaches, Mike Payne for Revolver, Josh McCarthy for Ironside, and they'll be up late tonight trying to think of little wrinkles that they can throw in there. An early season showcase here in Raleigh, Boston, and San Francisco tomorrow should be an amazing climax.
Perfect red zone offense for Revolver here in this game. The Hucks were excellent as well. So for analyst Evan Leffler, I'm Mike Cousins saying so long from Raleigh, North Carolina. Our final score, Revolver of San Francisco 15 and Doublewide of Austin 7. To watch this entire game on replay as well as other games on our family of ESPN networks, log on to watchespn.com or download the Watch ESPN app. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.